Episode 15 is brought to you by the following Big Dog Tier members: Lori King, Tawny Nixon, and Roni and Trav Allen. Are you looking to be more involved in the Dog Pound community? If so, please visit patreon.com/dogwithabone. For just $1 a month, you can help support Dog with a Bone's mission. Please visit our page to learn about the multiple tiers that will give you access to behind-the-scenes content, outtakes, documents, photos, videos, and live monthly events with me. I thank you for your continued support and consideration. Warning, this episode contains adult content and listener discretion is advised. All views and opinions expressed by Dog with a Bone guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the contributors. Everyone, and welcome back to Dog with a Bone. If you have not already, please join our Dog with a Bone discussion Facebook page where you can meet other listeners and discuss the episodes as we move through the season. There will be a ton to talk about. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Dog with a Bone on Spotify or wherever you listen so you get notified when episodes are released. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Dog Pound. Did you all think I'd be back so soon? I didn't. It had not even been a week since the last episode of Season 2 aired that things began to take off with new leads and information coming in. I wanted to get back on here to provide you the information so we can continue to drive this investigation. I want to start off by sharing an interview that I did shortly before the end of the season. I had got on the phone with a guy named Weston. Weston was in Mackenzie's class, and he wanted to share more about what he remembered of that day and what stood out to him.
I went to school with her, and we used to eat lunch together all the time when we was kids.
Were you in the same grade?
Yeah.
Were you in Miss Zimmerman's class?
Yeah.
I asked Weston about a conversation he had with Mackenzie on that last day she attended school.
I remember when we left school and we walked down the street over there's like a little drainage bridge right there. And then there's an old laundry mat right there on the right, and there's a light pole that's there. Well, I used to wait for my mom to get there. And Mackenzie usually would wait for my mom to get there. And then when I got picked up, she'd walk on down to her house.
How was she when she walked home? Did she have anything with her?
Yeah, she had her little purse she had hanging on her arm, and she was carrying a box. It was just like books and stuff, just full of stuff. But I remember we stand there, and usually she'd always stand there and wait with me. But she goes, well, I got to get going. I said, you don't have time to wait? And I remember this just like yesterday. She goes, no, I'm not allowed. I said, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow at school or I'll see you another time. She just wasn't saying much the whole day. I mean, we had lunch together that day. She just real quiet and awkward, and I really don't understand what was going on with her.
Was this not her normal self?
No, she was always a very on-the-go, wired kid when we was kids. She's always friendly. It doesn't matter if somebody kicked her in the knees, she'd still have a good day. It just wasn't like her, and usually she'd sit there and wait, and she just didn't wait. She just said, well, I'm not allowed. I got to go home. It was weird that she had a box of stuff with her. I was like, why is she carrying a box out of school home?
What was in the box, you said?
It was just books and supplies and stuff, school stuff. So I don't know if it was her supplies from her desk at the time or a locker.
Do you remember there wasn't a sale of food? There wasn't food in there?
I don't believe there was food in there.
Like the pumpkin rolls or the pizza, it was books and supplies.
Books, supplies.
Okay.
I don't remember anything about food being in there.
She normally would wait for your mom?
Yeah, we just hung out. And it was always like 5 minutes after we was let out. So it took us a minute to walk down to that pole by the laundromat. The first time the whole school year that she was just awkward and just like, I gotta go. No, I'm staying. And the only reason I remember all this is just because I remember the following day, like everything that happened. So it's like, I can't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning, but I remember that whole day. It's just heartbreaking. Everybody was her friend in school, but she's a good friend of mine.
Vernon had mentioned when he spoke to me that they had looked into the possibility of this sexual abuse happening maybe under the bridge. So I asked Weston if there were any individuals that they saw around the laundromat or the bridge area.
We never had any problems getting out of school and dealing with anybody.
Okay.
But there's always a couple other kids that would wait down farther at the laundromat, but never really came in contact with them or anybody.
How far was the laundromat to her house?
I'd say a good block and a half or so.
Did you see her walk away?
Yep. She walked clear down by Don and Marty's Pizza, and then she crossed the street. And by the time Mom picked me up, she was just making her cross there. That's the last time I seen her. You know, we're kids, and it's just weird talking about it because I'm almost 30 years old, but I just can't imagine anything else. And I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, it's just such a tragedy until everything's been uncovered. And I didn't know if anything that I remember would help, but I wanted to contribute somehow because it needs justified and figured out.
Right, 100%. Well, I mean, it helps show that, you know, she wasn't carrying pizza rolls or pumpkin rolls.
I know for a fact, and I know that's a big limb to stand out on as many years ago, but I remember the top of the box was just bigger than her. Okay. And there wasn't food in there. It's like she was taking everything she had used at school home.
And I wonder if that's not her planning not to come back. She was supposed to go to her dad's that weekend, and I don't think she was planning on coming back.
Apparently. I mean, it was odd, because I remember that, and then thinking about that, why isn't anybody else carrying boxes or carrying things home? It was like something going on, and she just kept her head down, and she goes, I can't stay. I got to go home. I said, okay. My feelings were hurt. I was a little kid. I was like, well, we hang out every day. You don't want to hang out today? I'm just really aggravated with everything, and I'm aggravated with Stanforth, especially. I think he's a POS. I think that he's covered up too many other things aside from this. I don't know why, but he's dirty.
This case should have been solved in 24 hours.
Yeah. It was nothing was investigated. It was like, oh, well, the house burned up, the whole girl's in it, move on. That's not how that was supposed to work.
Was there any rumors and talk of what happened back then?
I was too young to remember. I mean, it's just like it happened and it was a tragedy, and they had all these things going on at school, basically therapy, in-school therapy to talk to kids, and they just basically said stuff happens and made us forget about it. You know, he's a little grown man now. I didn't realize the extent of it until now. But I think whatever was going on with the box that she was carrying that day was different. Something made me concerned that day. Even as a kid, I'm like, why is she taking all her stuff home?
Weston then tells me about a difference in Mackenzie when she would arrive at school after staying with her mom versus her dad.
I will say this. I knew when she was staying with her dad, and I knew when she was staying with her mom. Because when she came home from her mom's, she smelled bad. I mean, she just wasn't bathed right. Smelled like animal pee. I knew when she was talking about it. She's just a different person. When she'd come home, go to school from her dad's or go to school from her mom's, it was just two different Mackenzies. I know she was abused in different ways over there.
Yeah.
You could just tell. Thinking back now,
I wonder if she was purposely not showering.
I just wonder, because what's been uncovered with what happened to her, how many other times it happened. And who would want to take a bath? Who would want to be uncovered?
We know that Kenny made Mackenzie sleep in her urine. He also made her wear urine-soaked underwear on her head. It makes sense to me that she was going to school without the best hygiene. There's also been significant research done that shows if a child does not bathe or shower at a young age, there could be a history of sexual abuse. It's something to consider. Victims of sexual abuse have voiced not wanting to be naked due to the fear of what may happen. They have also expressed a feeling of feeling dirty inside and outside.
I think she just, I can't imagine. It makes me want to cry. I can't imagine her living like that every day. Just petrified of her life because of some piece of crap people like that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you reaching out and calling and sharing this information. I can't imagine having a friend like that and then not having her the next day. That's horrible. Yeah. We ended our call, and once again, I am left feeling sick to my stomach. I feel such sadness in my heart when I think about Mackenzie's time at Marianne and Kenny's house. Mackenzie attended school. She put a smile on her face, and she was everyone's friend, knowing that when she left school, trauma awaited her. And yet, she continued to care for others around her. I am more confident now after speaking with Weston that Mackenzie was worried and didn't want to go home. She was not her usual self, like she had a lot on her shoulders. I do think Mackenzie was making plans to not go back to that school. After Mackenzie left Weston, she went outside and played with her friends. Tanya told us that Mackenzie wanted to spend the night with her, and then the plans changed. Mackenzie also went to go stay with her Aunt Kay and was told no. There's a reason Mackenzie did not want to stay the night at her own house. 1,000%. Remember, Jennifer was also there, but had asked to go home and her dad came and got her. Jennifer was lucky. What was going on in that home that Jennifer wanted out so badly? Another reason I decided to release this episode was to give you an update on the letter that was dropped off at the Jeffersonville Fire Department by the girl who wrote the letter, and the pieces started falling into place. In the last episode, I had mentioned about the letter that was dropped off at the fire department, and Vernon didn't think it was of importance, but the fire marshal believed it was true. Here's Vernon's response to the letter.
I don't want to say what's in there. I don't have that recollection. But it was alluding that this person had a conversation with Mackenzie and about a dream and about somebody doing stuff to her and others. We had found out that this was one of her classmates. I think she was looking for attention. So she created this letter and the stink behind it. She rode her bicycle up to the firehouse and handed this letter to the fireman and disappeared into the darkness.
When she came up, she was still a little girl?
Not an 8-year-old, but a 13, 14-year-old.
Oh, okay, so she was older.
And the years had passed, and they dropped this letter off. And the fireman said, whoa. And so we get the letter, and we had no idea who this person was. And I think John is the one that actually found out who she was and interviewed her and found out that this really wasn't what it was perpetuated to be. And we really thought this person had firsthand knowledge, but it really wasn't.
All right, everyone, it's now time for us to finally hear what was in that letter and the mysterious woman who wrote it. Meet Chelsea. Can you introduce yourself and how you knew Mackenzie?
I went by my middle name when I went to Jeffersonville Elementary. So I guess live on. I moved there to Jeffersonville in 2005-ish, 2006. Mackenzie was in a couple grades below me. Sometimes we would have gym class outside instead of in the gym and everything. And my little brother would get bullied by kids in his class. I would go to recess with them, and some of the kids would ask me to push them on the swings. So I would just kind of skip gym class and just run up and down where the swings were at and just pushing kids for a little bit and kind of keeping an eye on my little brother to make sure nobody was messing with him.
What grade were you in?
6th grade.
So you would go over, push kids on the swings watching your brother, and was one of those Mackenzie?
I believe so, because I don't know how else she would have known who I was when she came up to me when I was sitting on the bench with Miss Rice.
So you didn't really know her prior to this?
No.
I asked Chelsea to walk me through how this conversation started.
So I was sitting on the little bench at recess with Miss Rice, and her and another little girl came up, and Mackenzie was pushing the girl off of her and stuff. And then they said, "Mackenzie had a dream. Can we talk to you about it?" I'm like, "Sure, I guess." And then she's like, "Well, it was just a dream. It was just a dream." I'm like, "Okay." And then she talked about her being on the stairs overhearing her mom, which is Marianne, Kenny, and her uncles talking about the house catching on fire and Mackenzie dying.
Mackenzie said that this was a dream?
Yes.
When did she tell you this in relation to the fire?
I'm wanting to say probably the week before or so.
Mackenzie, when she was talking to you, she mentioned she had this dream. What did she say exactly?
That she was standing on the stairs talking to her uncle, and then she was supposed to go upstairs, and then she heard them. She didn't go up in her dream. She just stayed there on the stairs, and she heard them.
Heard them say that they were going to do what?
About the house catching on fire and making it look like an accident.
I think she might have heard them talking and not a dream.
Now that I'm an adult, I think it wasn't a dream also.
Because that's a very specific dream.
It definitely is, but I was only 12 at the time, and she kept saying it was a dream, and her friend reassured it was a dream. I didn't think nothing about it.
Did she say anything else?
We were talking about house fires, and I said I've never had anything, no classes or anything like that. I've seen training houses and stuff, but I never participated in anything like that before. And then I told her I've seen a video of where you wrap in a blanket and roll, so I would probably try to keep that to keep the fire off of me if anything happened.
Did she seem afraid to you?
Not really afraid, but kind of anxious, yes. Asking questions after question.
About what?
About just what to do if you were in a house fire, or what I would do.
How did she seem anxious to you?
Her friend kept trying to hug her, and she didn't really want touched. And then I remember she told her friend that she would have made her nervous by doing that. And then Miss Rice, the last question was what to do. And then I told her wrap in a blanket, that way the fire wouldn't singe her. And then Miss Rice chimed in and told me to go play.
Now, I want to take you back to my conversation with Jeanette, who was Mackenzie's best friend. If you remember, Jeanette said that she had spent the night at Mackenzie's house just a few days before this fire happened. She was spending the night at Mackenzie's house when Marianne had come into the room and told Mackenzie that she had to go with her. Mackenzie didn't want to go, but she, of course, listened to her mom and she left for hours. Remember, this is Mackenzie's house. It was a sleepover. Her friends were there and Marianne pulls her away. When Mackenzie comes back, she's tired. She doesn't want to be touched. And so they just go to sleep. It was a couple of days later that Jeanette told us that she was hugging Mackenzie, always wanted to hug her. And Mackenzie asked her to stop touching her. Mackenzie did not want to be hugged. So this actually lines up for me based on what Jeanette had told us. Chelsea was confused for a second when I mentioned Jeanette. She didn't know who I was talking about. So I asked her if she had listened to the podcast because I wanted to make sure that she didn't learn this information from listening to the podcast. Chelsea told me that she hadn't listened to the podcast, that the only episode she's heard is the one with Vernon. She had saw a video and a post about the letter dropped off at the fire department and then saw the video of me discussing about the letter being dropped off that she then reached out. Mackenzie said that this was a dream and you're guessing, I mean, it's a long time ago, a week before the fire that she was asking about this stuff?
I do believe so. I explained to them about how Mackenzie came up with a little girl and talked to me about that, and then I apologized for not telling them about it all sooner. I was dealing with a lot of childhood stuff myself. I kept getting bounced between my mom and my dad, like custody swap back and forth.
Do you know who you handed the letter to?
No, I went to walk up and go knock on the door, and there was a firefighter there, and I just handed it to him and walked back because I wasn't even supposed to have my mom's car. My mom was in the shower, so I made it quick, and I ended up getting in trouble for taking her car.
Do you know who the fireman was?
I do not. I know he had darker hair and was wearing a ball cap.
Did he have an accent at all?
He didn't say anything.
So you dropped this letter off, and clearly there was things in the letter that they felt like they needed to come talk to you.
Yes.
So based on what was said in the letter, they found that that was concerning.
Yes, ma'am. Because I guess the way I answered questions in the letter that I wrote that I said, I guess was eerily similar to how she was found.
What did you say?
It was the whole wrapped in a blanket thing. Apparently they found her wrapped in a blanket, and I had no idea. I was never there. My parents were extremely strict with me. I wasn't even allowed to leave the house unless I was going to school or I had an adult with me. It was like that until I was 19. She ended up calling me, a detective did, and then asked me to be able to come in and do fingerprint. And they ended up having me do fingerprints. And then eventually they contacted me again and set up a date and time for me to come in for an interview.
Why did they want your fingerprints?
I don't know. I still don't. I guess to see if my prints were on the letter. The interview was rather quite ridiculous.
How old were you when you went in? You were driving, so the letter.
The letter, I was 19. Like 18, just turned 19.
So then, how long before they called you in for an interview?
I was 21.
It took them that long?
Yes.
So you dropped it off when you were 19, and then you never heard anything back?
No, nothing.
So do you know the detective that called you and had you come in?
I do not.
Well, who was in the room? Who interviewed you?
I talked to 3 different people. At first, it was a gentleman that had white hair and a mustache. And then another gentleman came in. And then it was another gentleman. They were playing, they did the whole good cop, bad cop thing, trying to scare me. I was pregnant with my daughter during all of this.
So you go in and you do your fingerprints?
Yes, and then they contacted me a month or so later and asked me to come in.
You don't know who the two cops were that were interviewing you?
No, I don't remember their names.
Was Vernon in there?
Yeah, he was one of the first ones that I talked to. I do remember that.
So when you first went in?
Yes.
So tell me about that. How did Vernon get involved?
He asked me about the letter, and he kept trying to say that I was there. I kept telling him I wasn't. And then after that, that's when he had people come in, the two other officers come in and talk to me. And then there towards the end, I told them I was done, that they were being stupid and looking at the wrong people.
So Vernon comes in, and why is he telling you or thinking you were there? What's his point?
Because of the details in the story about how Mackenzie was found. And I don't think he really liked the point that I kept telling him that I'm pretty sure one of her uncles and Marianne and Kenny had something to do with it. And whenever I would bring that up, they would get mad at me. During the interview, at one point, they told me that they saw kids running in the alleyway from Mackenzie's house wearing all black. They were trying to pinpoint and say that I was one of the kids there. I told them I was not. And they're like, well, do you know what kids would have been there?
What?
Yeah, they were trying to blame older kids in grades higher than Mackenzie. I told them, well, I don't know who it would have been, but I did get the creeps by some of my classmates. So I gave them the names of the people that kind of creeped me out when I was going to school with them. And he pretty much brushed it off, stating we already talked to them. And I told him that he was wasting his time looking at kids at the school because it's obvious of who did it, because who else takes off and goes on a vacation right after that happens.
He was discounting you in regards to what you were saying Mackenzie told you.
Yes.
And you took a lie detector test?
Yes.
And did you pass?
I don't know, because the questions that they asked me first, they did like a trial run to get my baseline. And then they did the second one, but the questions that they asked me on both tests didn't add up on what they said the answers were on the thing. If that makes any sense.
Did they ask you specific questions in regards to Mackenzie?
About stuff that had to do with the letter?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Honestly,
okay.
It's been a hot minute. It's been almost 2 decades. I know one of the questions I'm pretty sure was about if I was part of the group that ran away from the house. If I was in the house the night of the fire, I kept telling them no, I wasn't. And then they kept saying, well, how else would you know this information? And it was just like back and forth, back and forth. They kept trying to put me there at the night of the fire, and I was not.
Did they ask you any questions for the lie detector about the letter, if that was truthful? Did Mackenzie say this?
They asked me if I wrote the letter, and I told them, yeah. They did ask questions about it. I do know I got aggravated with them about it because they pulled the letter out, and I told them, yeah, I wrote that. And they're like, well, we need you to rewrite on this paper. I'm like, why do I need to rewrite when I told you guys that I wrote that? Because it doesn't make sense. If I'm willingly, openly telling you that I wrote it, then why do I still have to write?
So then there was bad cop, good cop, right? What does that look like?
One was coming in, being polite, asking questions, being respectful, and not talking to me like I was trash or a criminal. And the second one was instantly coming in, slammed his hands on the table and everything, and just raised his voice, was being hateful towards me.
And you don't know who that was?
No, but if I seen a picture, honestly, I could point them out probably.
Okay, I'll give you pictures. I'll send it to you so you can identify who that is. Thanks to the dog pound, I was able to show photos of officers from 2014 who may have been in the interview. But unfortunately, too much time has passed since Chelsea was in that room. I do want to note that both Stiegel and Brown were both deceased when she was brought in for the interview, so that we know that they were not part of it. I didn't want Chelsea just to guess. I wanted her to be 100% confident, and she just wasn't. She does describe the, quote, good cop, end quote, as having a mustache, white hair, and a friendly face. When looking through the photos, Officer Summers was one of those familiar faces to her, and she thought that he was the good guy, but again, not 100% sure. The, quote, bad cop, end quote, she described as being taller, had reddish tint to his hair, and he wasn't heavy set, but more stocky built. There were so many officers and fire department officials there when she walked in that there were so many faces that looked familiar to her. What do you feel like they were trying to do?
Honestly, I think they were really trying to figure out if the letter, what Mackenzie and I talked about, was true. And I feel like they were trying to cover up stuff because it's just like everything's obvious. People talk, you hear things that happen. And the fact that they were focused on 5th graders and 6th graders and even 4th graders. He kept stating that he really truly believed it was somebody in a higher grade.
Who said that?
The last one that came in and talked to me during the interview.
So somebody broke in and started this fire without Marianne and Kenny and them knowing?
Yes, that's what he was trying to say.
They said they were sleeping, so there's no way kids broke in with a dog and poured gasoline everywhere and they didn't hear it.
Exactly.
And Mackenzie didn't even try to escape.
And then the fact that every time I brought up something about it fishy, about Marianne and Kenny, they would get pissy with me about it.
Really?
Yes. And then, like, that's when he was all, it was like end of the world ordeal if I said anything about them.
So you left there. Did any other follow-up happen?
No, absolutely nothing. And I was like, man, I know they're going to follow up with me. I told them that I had to go eat because I felt like I was going to pass out. I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter.
So I guess I'm just curious, so was it 3 years later after you dropped off the letter you heard from them?
Yes.
So why 3 years?
I don't know. They said that I was hard to track down. And I'm like, I don't see how. I've had the exact same Facebook page since 2008. I mean, they could have gone to MEPS or whatever. They could have gone to Army Recruit Station and they could have got my locations.
So did you sign the letter?
I think I did.
Did you with your first name and last name or just your first name?
My first and last. I do believe I put my middle name in there also.
So you signed the full thing?
Yes.
So they could have easily looked you up?
Yes. I have this weird thing that I've done since I started at Miami Tracy because I decided to go by my middle name. I started signing my full name on papers.
Have you lived in Jeffersonville your whole life?
No. I grew up in Jamestown, and then unfortunately, my parents bounced me back and forth. Like, I would live with my mom for a bit, and then I would go live with my dad and my stepmom, and it was just back and forth, back and forth. But I lived in Jamestown from 2 to about 12.
No judgment, I'm just clarifying. So you don't bring this up to Mackenzie sharing this to you after the fire. It's when you're 19?
No, I assumed they talked to Miss Rife, and Miss Rife did it. And then after everything that I went through, my personal life, in between stuff going on with my parent and my life, I was in intensive counseling for a long time.
So what made you decide to write the letter and go? What happened in your world that you were like, I'm going to do this?
I had night terrors about everything that was going on in my childhood. That didn't stop until I was about 23. And I just had a dream, and it looked like a picture of Mackenzie, and I was like, oh shit, if that makes any sense. I woke up and wrote the letter, and then brought it into him the next day.
Is there any reason that you went to the fire station rather than the police department with the letter?
So I had no idea who to go to. And I was like, well, the fire department responded, so maybe they would know what to do.
And then after you dropped off the letter, how did you feel?
I felt like I really hope this works, and hopefully they'll contact me afterwards. I do know I was in a rush because my mom didn't know I took her car.
I circled back with her on when she dropped off the letter and how long it took for anyone to follow up with her. When you dropped off the letter, there was somebody standing outside. You hand it to him. He doesn't say anything to you?
No, he just looks down at it and then walks inside.
And you leave and you signed that letter so they had who you were.
Yes.
And then it's 3 years later, you hear from somebody.
Yes.
Was Vernon in the whole time?
No. They left me in the room by myself quite a bit. They'd come in, talk to me, and then walk out. Come in, talk to me, and walk out. And I was like, what the f*** is going on? This is getting nowhere.
So you heard Vernon's interview.
Yes and no. Your last episode, I got to the point where he said it was attention seeking, and
yes.
I cannot make it past that because that makes me really upset.
Tell me more.
It's definitely not attention seeking. Mackenzie and I really spoke.
And she really said this. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What else did you think? Because he said it was just a dream. Somebody attention seeking, was young, rode up on her bike.
That was grade A. I'm trying not to cuss, but that's bullcrap. I kind of can get it because if you look at me now, I still look like I'm a high school student. I can understand that, but the fact I got into a driver's seat of a car, you aren't going to call the cops to come arrest some little 13-year-old kid for driving a vehicle?
By the time you come in and he did his interview with you, he knew you weren't 14.
Oh, 100%.
So to even suggest that you were this little girl, 13, 14, you had grown some, he already knows that's not true.
Oh, 100%. And the fact that he's sitting there putting out false information like that, what is that? What is that, seriously?
Did they ask you, were you making this up? Are you trying to get attention? Were they going down that line of questioning with you?
Yes. He was like, you didn't have a conversation with Mackenzie. And I was like, ask the little girl that was with her and then ask Miss Rice.
Since Chelsea mentioned Miss Rife had overheard this conversation, it was important for me to try and get a hold of Miss Rife. I was able to connect with Karen, she's no longer Miss Rife, to see if she recalls this conversation.
I would not have been at recess with, was it Mackenzie in second or third grade?
Yeah, she was in third grade.
Yeah, I would not have been at recess with the third grade. We didn't have recess together.
I'm wondering then how she came up with your name.
She was one of my students. I cannot remember if she was in my homeroom class, but I do remember I had her as a student. I taught science.
Okay.
5th and 6th grade science.
But I think you would have overheard, like if that conversation was happening and then there was a fire and she died, I think you'd have been like, wait a minute.
The whole community was devastated. My youngest daughter was in 1st grade, I believe, and she was very traumatized. I mean, I used to have to lay with her at night. Her dad would have to show her that the smoke alarms worked. I mean, it was a traumatic event.
I thank Karen for her time and pivot back to Chelsea and give her a call after hanging up. So I found Miss Rife. I got a hold of Miss Rife. I just actually got off the phone with her. And she does not remember this conversation at all. She said that she was a 5th or 6th grade teacher. She would not have been out at recess when Mackenzie would have been out at recess as a 3rd grader. Is there a specific reason why she would have been there?
I know the teacher had black hair, and I know Miss Rife had black hair.
She said she had you as a student, but she said that she wouldn't have been out there at that time. So you don't know who the teacher was, or you?
I was convinced it was Miss Rife because she had black hair and she knew my name. I didn't think other teachers knew who I was.
One possibility is that it was Chelsea's brother's first grade teacher who may have overheard this conversation and she would have known who Chelsea was. Why were you out there if Mackenzie was out there?
We had gym class and I didn't want to participate, so I sat on the bench. I was kind of mad because my mom told me I was going to my dad's house that weekend and I didn't want to.
So you were out there not at recess, but because of gym class, so then you went and sat over where?
Yes.
Then, because Miss Rife said too that she had an investigator come talk to her back when the letter got dropped off, and she had told them the same thing. I don't remember this. I wouldn't have been out there. Are you going with the thought that it was Miss Rife because of the hair? But you knew Miss Rife, right? You had her as a teacher?
Yes, but the teacher had their back turned towards us. I was looking at the school and the teacher was watching the kids play.
So then she said, go play, and you assumed it was Miss Rife?
Yes.
Do you think that they overheard the conversation?
I know at one point they turned and was talking about how to get out of a house fire, like if something caught on fire, how to get out of it.
The teacher was?
Yes, the teacher started talking. They told me to go play, and then they started talking about if you were in a fire that you needed to try to get out.
And they were watching the kids on recess, so it had to be a third grade teacher or down.
I guess so. I don't know. I really thought it was Miss Rife.
I immediately got back on the phone with Donald as well, and we were looking at photos from the second and third grade classes, trying to see if any teachers might have overheard this conversation that looked like Miss Rife. Now, there's a lot of teachers, right, who have the same hairstyle and color as Miss Rife, so it's hard to say who it could have been. But at the end of the day, I believe Chelsea. I do. Her information is so specific on what Mackenzie said. I do not believe it was just a dream, but a conversation that Mackenzie actually overheard. This would explain why Mackenzie was afraid to stay at home, why she was planning on leaving and not coming back. It also goes and helps understand when Marianne says that Mackenzie was ready. She knew where she was going and she was going to a better place. You don't say that or know that if you didn't overhear this conversation. But if Chelsea was lying or seeking attention, as Vernon said, this is a huge risk putting yourself out there like that. Chelsea went back years after it happened when nothing was going on in regards to the case that she came forward. It wasn't like she was seeking attention. Chelsea reached out to me after hearing that episode of Vernon discussing her letter and being a young girl on a bike. Chelsea wanted to tell me exactly what she said in that letter and said it straight. Chelsea also agreed to take another lie detector test to prove what Mackenzie told her was true. We finally have uncovered and identified the mystery letter writer after all these years, and we heard from her on what she included in that letter that Vernon said wasn't credible. I want to now dig into the next letter that was discussed in the last episode. I got on the phone with Teresa and Cindy regarding the letter that Cindy had sent certified claiming that Marianne had confessed to the murder. But also, why has Marianne and Kenny both been protected all these years? Next time on Dog with a Bone.
Marianne, according to my husband, they go to prison if I go to prison. They said Vernon let them leave and that was it, during the night. Mikey was pretty ticked off at Marianne and Kenny because they had been given, I think, close to $7,000 from the VFW to pay for the funeral. Marianne and Kenny took that money and left for the weekend to the casino and blew it. the question would be, what is Vernon capable of? And not just Vernon, okay? Right. Vernon wasn't alone in this. He had a buffer deputy taking the kickbacks. What would these badges be willing to do to keep from going to prison?
Dog with a Bone is hosted by Melissa Sandberg, investigated, produced, and written by Melissa Sandberg. Additional writing by Caitlin Sandberg. Edited by Jason Sandberg. Mixed and mastered by Morrow Mixing and Mastering. Theme music by Alex Yukich. Dog with a Bone is a Sasquatch production.